Hello, everyone. This is Edward, the San Antonio Public Library, and today we are going to have our Pop Madness Esports panel, a year in San Antonio Esports. Before we get started, a couple of housekeeping rules. Please save your questions at the end of the discussion. I'll ask the panelists a question. At the end of the question, of that discussion, please feel free to answer your questions in the chat. Please be respectful of other people in the chat room. Be respectful of the panelists, and also just have a good time. We're here to have a good time and say as much as we can about esports and give as much feedback as possible. So I'd like to introduce our panelists for today. We'll start with Sam. Can you introduce yourself for us?
Yeah, hi, I'm Sam Elizondo, co-owner of the LFG Cyber Cafe and founder of the Esports and Education Foundation.
Okay. And Travis?
My name is Travis Sang. I'm the head esports coach for Texas A&M San Antonio.
And Caitlin?
My name is Caitlin Thinanta. I'm the head esports coach at St. Mary's University.
Thank you all for coming. We also have Brianna and Morgan on the call, and we're just going to dive right into it. We're here to discuss the changes in San Antonio esports over the past year. What changes and innovations have you seen or been a part of in San Antonio gaming and esports? Let's start with you, Sam.
Start with me. Well, obviously, this last year's been unique for a laundry list of reasons. So there's been a kind of an interesting ebb and flow, in my opinion. There was a lot of interest and a lot of people really pushing the envelope on indoctrinating gaming and esports into the scholastic space and the military space. So in that regard, there's actually been a lot of growth. Unfortunately, with the dawn of, COVID-19 and some of the things that came along with that, it also hampered some things a little bit, in my opinion, at least on the high school level. Obviously, not having access to campuses and things like that has made it difficult for some of the younger esports programs to participate and continue to grow their groups. But I think now, as we're moving more towards the end of it, things are starting again to kind of bustle and grow. We're getting more requests for support. We're getting more people involved. New high schools popping up saying, hey, we're going to be doing this next year. We're looking at a new program in the fall. So, all in all, I think San Antonio is growing, not yet exponential, but it's steady for sure. And I think that's really exciting.
Great. I'll just hop on that real quick. I remember at the start of last year, that's when I got down here. There was so much excitement just speaking with the high schools and learning about the clubs and the programs that they were building out. And then, of course, pandemic happened. So things got kind of put on hold. Even with that, though, we still had different organizations. I know Sam recently just did his tournament, but even high schools themselves still doing their events. Caitlin and myself still, trying to do the best we can with the resources we had. So if anything, I'm just excited for when things kind of start to return to normal. All those things that got put on hold are finally going to be able to start up again.
Okay. So what's the big challenge to pivot from being in person at the cafes or in person for the training for the universities compared to going virtual? Was the big leaps and bounds, or the transition not too smooth, but good enough that you see that's got a viable progress to keep in the future?
I'll say for us, it was good enough. Being online already for a majority of our competitions in that regard, it wasn't necessarily a huge barrier to us. If anything, the only things we had to work around and, having students on campus, for example, how many people can we have in that space to practice? And then as a result of those limitations, having to, rearrange our practices or adjust the structure so that we can kind of maximize the use of the room. But also, for example, not wanting two different teams in there at the same time so that the comms overlap and the mics pick up everything. So just some minor things, but for the most part, we were able to transition pretty smoothly.
Sam?
Yeah, for me, it's a little different. Obviously, having a brick and mortar, that was a challenge for sure. Even the question of whether or not we should open our doors was a big thing for us to answer. And we kept them closed for a while. We weren't comfortable. We weren't familiar enough. I don't think there was enough information out there that could really, give us a confident choice one way or the other on the path to move. And then ultimately ended up being that we deconstructed our store and socially distanced everything as, the city allowed things to be back open. And we felt comfortable, of course, staffing it. So labor wise, yeah, the cost of plexiglass shot up like 700%. I mean, it was an impossible ask for us to try and partition off each individual station. There's just not enough money. I mean, we're talking tens of thousands of dollars if we wanted to open early. And for us, you know, that was something that we just had to grin and bear because we couldn't protect y'all or our community. And so we closed our doors to make sure that we could. From the education side, you know, fortunately gave us a lot of time to plan to get the Esports and Education Foundation stood up to build the strategic partnerships that we have now. So we were fortunate in that regard, and that led to the success of this last event. But there's been, I mean, a tremendous amount of innovation locally on the people that were trying to do things, from how to host an online event, right? That's a learning curve from the traditional in-person. In-person, you have the hardware, everything's set up, you're typically good to go. But now, of course, everyone's like, well, we still want to stay connected. We still want to participate. What does that look like? And we saw some of those challenges with the event yesterday, doing it online, where not everybody has a console, not everybody has a great internet connection, not everybody's at the same place. So I think San Antonio and its communities have done a tremendous job to stay connected and keep esports moving forward. You know, all of the colleges for sure. There's more colleges now participating in esports than we had in the dawn of COVID. I mean, I don't ever remember Trinity, UIW really having any presence, and now they're participating in these big tournaments with us, which is huge.
Caitlin, would you like to add to that?
Sure. I don't know how much more I can offer. I think Travis and I have had similar experiences, and for us, you know, of course, our focus was on our students and our players, and so when it came to adapting to the challenges, you know, we took a page out of the playbook for esports clubs that had been run for the past 10 years. If it's been operated online, then let's continue to do it when we absolutely have to. And you know, that doesn't come without its challenges. Like Sam said, access to equipment, access to high-speed internet is a challenge, and it's an accessibility issue. But I think in all of this, the resilience of the players and the students is what needs to be highlighted more than anything else, because yes, we can build the avenue or build the opportunity for them, but realistically, it was them who took it off the ground and made it, you know, whatever it may be, an event, a tryout, a this, a that, made it into what the best possible version of itself, given all of the circumstances.
Just to piggyback off what Caitlin said, 100%, because, you know, with everything going on, people not getting to go out as often and whatnot, the events that we were able to put on, whether it be for the campuses, you know, the campus population, or even for our own teams, I think there was a lot more interest and a lot more motivation for, you know, our members to jump on it. You know, I know Caitlin's done her community events, and I look in there and there's tons of people, and that's, you know, that's because she's putting on something, she's providing something for them to get people involved, to, you know, to still be able to talk to their classmates and stay in touch. And I think, again, with everything going on, people really gravitated towards those kinds of opportunities.
And like Travis mentioned about the game nights, I think that's one part of the bigger picture, is that, you know, we're not trying to build a wall around our community. I think in times like this, we need to build bridges with other communities. And so very frequently, whether it's on social media or on broadcast or what have you, whenever we refer to TAMUSA, we're always like, those are our friends from TAMUSA playing in our Valorant night, you know, never our rivals. It's always trying to build each other up, because there is still so many challenges that lie ahead in terms of college esports and esports in San Antonio. And so you need to, like I said, I think building the bridges, especially right now, is so important. And I don't think we're going to see how important it is, you know, until we're at this same point next year.
Great. Travis and Kayla, I have a question for you. Give us a reflection on your first past 9 months as your first season of esports in San Antonio amid the COVID pandemic. How did that go?
I'll try to give an answer. How did it go? I mean, kind of just what we've already touched upon in the past few minutes. It went, you know, it's obviously not the perfect year. I mean, we couldn't do a lot of stuff that we had planned, the community outreach, engagement, even stuff I think, at least that I had planned on doing on campus, you know, in-person events. A lot of that We tried and then got pushed back, rightfully so. But given that, I think, like Hayden said, right, what that did mean is that what we ended up doing, or what we decided to do, we were able to focus all of our efforts on that. So for us, again, making sure that students were able to compete, that they were practicing, and that we were still able to do events, but that they were online or whatever needed to be changed to make them work. So in that regard, that's not unique to esports as a whole. Esports has been a grassroots center. It's always been about, well, if you can't do it this way, let's figure out a different way to do it. No, if the current structures aren't in place, let's go and figure out how to build our own structures and make it work. So that's kind of the beautiful part about esports, is if you have the motivation, you have people interested, it will find a way. So in that regard, it wasn't so bad.
And for us, it was very similar, almost the exact same challenges. But I think for us, instead of, I guess, backing down from the challenge, like Travis said, finding another way to accomplish the goal or accomplish the mission. And then also having people who believe in the same goals, who believe in, okay, why are we running this event? Is it, for social purposes? Is it to, one of the things that we did in the summer for the incoming freshmen was a game night during orientation. So it was kind of an introduction and almost an icebreaker for the freshmen to get to know each other. And the avenue was, Jackbox game night. It cost like $5 to buy the game, and only one person needs to do it and host it in Zoom. And it was, one of those things. And so, throughout the year, whatever challenge we were faced with, we would just remember, like, what are we trying to achieve here, right? We're trying to build a program. We're trying to promote academic excellence and all that may entail. We're trying to provide a competitive environment. And although initially we thought that would literally look different than the way that it does now, we literally thought we would be in our arena every Saturday, all day playing games. It looks a little bit different. Now we have half the teams online playing on Saturdays and the other half playing in the arena. It's not what we expected, but when faced with the challenge, we found a way to make it work. And again, I think it goes down to giving credit to the players and students. Yes, we may be the facilitators of these things, but at the end of the day, they still made it work. The students and the players, they were flexible. They, when we changed the rules last minute and said, okay, these are all the precautions we need to take, they went above and beyond. And so again, even with the challenges that we faced over the past 9 months, credit, I think, will always go to my staff and the students who rose to the occasion and not only met the expectations, but exceeded them.
It's good to hear. Very good to hear. Sam, I know you expanded on it earlier. You talked about it earlier about how you had to adapt. What other changes did the other cafes and venues have to do to offer in-person gaming? And also, did you offer any programs for virtual gaming at your cafe or lounge?
We did. We tried. Through the software that we utilized, GG Leap, there were offerings for like online connectivity and participating in pop-up tournaments and brackets and ladders and things like that. I think, if I had to guess, because it was available, I think more people were concerned with how to manage their living situations and what was going to come next from COVID when it kind of broke out. So we didn't see a lot of participation there. And it may have also been because a lot of our clientele typically are people without PCs anyway. So when they went home, there just wasn't anything left, right? We've always kind of structured that as a place for people that don't have to be able to participate at a price point that makes sense for them. So we did our best to try and host online events and didn't see a lot of traction there. And there was some innovative things. I think, unfortunately, we've actually lost a LAN center in San Antonio due to COVID. They just couldn't, stifle this or weather the storm. So we're down to 2 now. It's just us and Shenanigans. And I think even Shenanigans, to make sure that they could pay rent, they've shifted some of their offerings from, board games and playing cards. They did a lot more retail stuff to augment their influx of capital. we did some of the same on the technology side, and I assume we'll probably continue to do that because there's some other ways to use the hardware to pay rent. But that's, you know, that's just an entrepreneur trying to survive, right? It's been unique. You know, it's not very often that anybody has to deal with this, so there's not a really great roadmap for any business to figure out how to do this correctly. To our credit and Shenanigans' credit, we made it. Hopefully it gets a little better. But I think the innovations and just like they're saying, the participation from the students and everything that we've had to do or they've had to do to make it happen, that's going to compound the growth when we're finally able to meet back and start doing things in person and getting the community together. Because it is one thing to connect online, but there's that interpersonal connection that tends to draw people a little bit closer and give them, you know, that sense of community because, well, now you're actually in a physical place together. Yeah.
Do y'all think there will be an influx of participants when we do go in person again at your cafes or even at the gaming events for the colleges? Do you think once people are, you know, it's safe to come out, it's safe to play this, are y'all prepared? Or do you expect a huge amount of turnout, or just it's going to trickle in and people just going to put their foot in the water?
I think that's based on vaccines. Truly, you know, what that looks like and how quickly they get dispersed to the city. Because I even if they open up the doors and say, all right, everything's cool, everybody, I think in the back of everyone's head, there's going to be that concern, that kind of like waning fear, like, is this really the time? Do I really want to go forward with that? And again, in my personal opinion, if they're willing to take the vaccines, I think people are going to be chomping at the bit to get out and about and do anything, whether it's esports or gaming or whatever related. Going to the mall, going to have pizza at Grimaldi's, you know, literally the bar is going to be really low for people to just be out and together and, you know, not doing an awkward handshake every time they see somebody. Like, is it an elbow? Is it a fist bump? I can't even hug you, you know, like, so I hope, I truly believe that the in-person, there's a lot of attention drawn to that. Because it's not just the event. There's a lot of other cool things that happen. Typically, if you're going to an in-person event, it's not just about the actual competition. There's typically vendors and side events and panels and all this other cool stuff to participate in. And we've kind of, you know, it's kind of been lost. So I'm inclined to think that, yeah, it's absolutely going to blow up, or at least that's the hope.
I'll say I agree with Sam there, especially if we use, say, Super Smash Bros. As the example. That's traditionally a game where competition occurs in person locally. Obviously, I think well, I wasn't here necessarily to know exactly what happened, but I think the venues that were here in San Antonio, they agreed that they all wouldn't stop hosting in-person events, right, for safety's sake. So when those start back up, I know there's going to be plenty of people wanting, probably more people than they even had before. Last semester, just kind of for our campus community, we did like 4 Smash in-person events, kind of spread out every 2 weeks, obviously socially distanced, mask required, but we were getting 16, 17 people just like instantly signed up in there. Unfortunately, we weren't able to do that this semester, but the one thing I kept hearing was that, you know, this is the first thing I've gotten to do, you know, since, you know, COVID started. You know, I haven't gotten to even play anything or meet other students. And now this semester, you know, we haven't been able to do it in person, so we've been doing it online for the past 3 weekends, and the participation rates are drastically different, right? Online, we're seeing 4, 5, 6 people at most compared to the 16, 17 before. So clearly, right, you can see what people are interested in there. So again, especially for Smash and in-person one, I expect there to be a huge amount of interest in people trying to get out when it's safe to do so.
Excuse me. Sam, I have another question for you. What's it like working with the VFW, and how is that project going?
What's it like? Different. I love the guys to death. They're definitely not like working with anybody else, especially in the realm of esports, because, you know, the VFW is a very unique organization that they play by their own set of rules. Like they are grandfathered into a bunch of old things that I'm not even privy to. So they're one of the few places, for example, in San Antonio, you can theoretically smoke in a bar if you want. But I would say in the grand scheme of working in the education space, working in the private sector, and now working with these veterans, the veterans by and large are the most excited and most invested, but they're just so not technologically savvy, that they're very like apprehensive. Like they want it all to work, but they also want to understand how it's supposed to work. So, you know, we built the land center into VFW Post 8541. They were also very protective of their own communities for obvious reasons. Veterans do tend to be a little bit older. But now they're getting to the point where they have younger veterans utilizing that space daily as a place to game, as a place to work on their entrepreneurial pursuits, to do homework and things like that. So what was once essentially supposed to be like a gaming initiative has now really turned into like a utility space for their organization. They have a lot of cool stuff planned. I can't talk about all of it just yet, but District 20, which is San Antonio's VFW district, is about to get a new commander. And he has some very lofty and some very exciting goals when it comes to kind of revolutionizing the VFW, at least in our city. So I'm excited. Like I really genuinely love working with them. It's very easy to see the impact of the work that we do and how like eager and earnest they are in their efforts to support the cause. And whether that's, you know, a young veteran that was, you know, had a comms or a technological background in the military, physically helping us stand this thing up, or if it's, you know, a World War II vet or a Vietnam vet, like walking in to ask questions, oh man, this looks so cool, and can I play? And sitting down and actually trying, you know, a video game on a PC for the first time, there's just such genuine excitement and curiosity that you don't really see. I mean, it's almost like building the same thing for like a middle school, right? You get these kids that have never touched these cool things before, and they want to understand, and they want to touch, and they want to feel, and they want to participate, but you kind of got to like reel them back a little bit. You're like, hold on, wait, we're almost there. Let's be patient. So we love it. I mean, the Air Force also has stood up their esports like arm. I don't know if you've seen that, but they have a really big initiative now from a community standpoint for the Air Force and cybersecurity teams here in San Antonio. So I think, again, like as we can feel more comfortable with hosting events and being engaged personally, it's not even just the military space. I mean, Port San Antonio is asking me like, hey, how do we make these events happen? So everybody is now jockeying to participate and invest in this community. And I hadn't seen that before. I hadn't seen that in 4 years of working with LFG. So it's great. I think it's going to change a lot of things for the city for sure.
Cool. Another question for you is the Esports and Education Foundation. Can you tell us more about that, the goals, and have any events coming up? I know you just had an event yesterday.
Yeah. So really, Esports and Education Foundation is meant and was built to be a conduit for higher education opportunities and career paths like in the tech or STEAM fields. So far, we did host our first event. That was yesterday. It was a collegiate invitational. So we invited 8 colleges from San Antonio to compete online for a prize pool of $1,600. It was sponsored by Port San Antonio, the GVTC Communications, the Guadalupe Valley Telecommunications Company. They're an ISP provider. You're a ISP. As well as Spiff Space, Undisputed Custom Uniforms, a bunch of other local entities. And we actually had a watch party at Slackers Sports Bar. So we were received really well. We put a year of effort into the planning and to really making sure we were taking the right steps for the community. The students loved it. We've got a lot of tremendous feedback from the participants and ways that we could improve on, you know, when's the next one? They're already kind of asking about it. So the hope is we're going to aim towards something this winter, maybe on a winter as we enter into the winter break, where the students before they leave campuses, and try and host a similar event with another event on top of that. But the hope is with the waning of COVID and as that kind of disperses, we can start incorporating high schools a little bit safer. Right now, of course, with college, we're dealing with adults where waivers and things like that are in place. And if it is in person, you know, everybody's protected. We don't really want to offer that just up to high schools, but that's where we think we're going to make the most impact, is getting the high schools engaged, attaching colleges to those institutions. So, you know, I like having Travis Yang come out and speak to the kids and having some of his representatives maybe coach their teams that they share. That's the real hope and the genuine opportunity, I think, for the education space, is uplifting those programs and getting those kids further engaged towards colleges that offer, you know, scholarships or esports programs, or obviously from Port San Antonio side, you know, potential employers as they find and figure out what kind of career path they want to take on. So that's what we're about. And so far we've done a pretty good job, in my opinion, of fulfilling that mission.
Sounds wonderful. I'm glad to hear you're able to do your program, even though the week we had last week, that was pretty crazy.
You know, that wasn't helpful. I've lamented to Travis about that. We definitely it's hard to get things shipped when the roads don't work. So we've got to catch up on some things, but the players played, the money's going to get handed out. They're able to pay for their tuition. All things are good on that front for sure.
Great. So I have a question for Travis and Caitlin. Can you tell us more about your esports program? What games you play? What you look for in the student athletes? Things of that nature.
I'll start it. What games you play? I swear, every time I get asked this question, there's too many games. Okay, here we go. We got Super Smash. We got Call of Duty. We got Valorant, Hearthstone, Overwatch. And then just this semester, we added FIFA and Madden. I think I got all of them. If a student messages me, then I'll know if I missed one. But a caveat there for FIFA and Madden, those games only require one student each. So technically it's a team, but it's just one student for each. But those are the teams we're fielding. We'll probably make announcements early March as to what games we're bringing on next semester. But for now, that's what we are supporting this semester at a varsity level, quote unquote. Other than that, just this semester and past semester, kind of the same deal. Just again, making sure teams are practicing, that they're competing. Last semester, we actually saw some, I don't want to say unexpected successes because, I'm always expecting the best from the students. But as a coach, and especially for a new program, right, year 1, year 2, I'm focused on making sure the foundation is good, team culture. That's my priority. So anything on top of that is a bonus. But last semester, we had 2 teams. Our Smash team finished top 16 in the nation for NACE, the NACE conference. And then our Valorant team finished top 32 also for the NACE conference. So again, those are kind of cherry on top for me, that we were able to see those results, and it definitely is motivating for the students. They get a taste to see that, hey, we're not that far away from the best. Now, obviously, schools like UT and UTD for Smash, for example, they are at the very top, but we've gotten to compete in them. We've taken a few stocks off of them. So again, the students have gotten a taste of what it takes to compete at that level. And this semester has just been a lot of focusing now. Okay, now that we know what it takes, let's put in the work to actually get there. And hopefully later this semester or fall semester, we'll be able to make those more consistent in terms of top 16 results.
Travis.
I forgot Rocket League. Oh no. Oh no. And I know one of the people watching is on the Rocket League team.
I was like, hold on, Travis, like looking at remembering your social media posts, I'm like, hold on, that all makes sense except this or that. And it's funny because Travis's program plays all the games that we don't, except Overwatch. We only have an overlap in Overwatch, and we have yet to compete against each other so far, but I'm sure that'll change sometime this semester.
Also, that's not on purpose. I'm not trying to dodge Caitlin. I promise.
Yeah, like it is totally, which is one of those things that is up to the league and like out of our control. But it is what it is. For us, we play Overwatch, PC, League of Legends, Rainbow Six Siege on PC, and Fortnite. So similar number of games, maybe a few less. But in terms of success this year, we did see some early success in the fall with our Rainbow Six Siege hitting playoffs in one of their competitions, which was really exciting. I think they surprised themselves. So it was very nice to see that growth and how excited they are, going into the spring competitions. And our Fortnite roster is comprised of 6 people. And so far, from the beginning of fall semester to the end, they earned about $625 in scholarship prizing. So that was a very cool thing for them to experience, was, that first, here's your money, you earned it, this is yours. So they're working harder than ever this semester, because not only do they, in the fall, did they compete in duos, so 2-person teams, and trios, but now one of the competitions we play in has added solo competitions. So not only are they working on, two different kinds of competitions, and the different strategies that are involved with that, they're given a third. And so I think Fortnite compared to the rest of the games is really unique in that sense, whereas Valorant, Overwatch, Rainbow, League are all like 5 to 6 person teams, and you don't really deviate from that too much. So I'm very proud of the teams. I'm happy that they surprised themselves, and hopefully this will build up their confidence. And that, like Travis said, maybe we're not a number one team, but we're in striking distance. And in terms of games for next year, we haven't announced if we will be adding any new games, but Rocket League and Valorant are on the short list. So maybe we will see each other in some more competition.
That's pretty good, because this is the first year y'all being in existence, correct? And having that success, that's very impressive. So what would you, excuse me, for prospective athletes, what are you looking for your student athletes? What characteristics are you looking for? If I'm a student, I like to play video games, what do I need to do to come talk to you and say, hey, I want to play this game? What I need to do to be on a team? What characteristics, what games, what skills do I need to be successful and be on the Texas A&M San Antonio or the St. Mary's esports team?
There's a few, obviously there's a lot, but if I had to pick out some of the most important characteristics that I look for example, when as a part of the trial process, I do a phone interview or a Discord interview where I talk with the students, and number one, just to get to know more about them, but I'm trying to learn about kind of their background. How did they get into gaming? Did they start as a casual and then kind of progress into the more competitive side? I asked them questions about their mindset. Have they ever tried to kind of practice structured by themselves? Do they review their own film? Have they ever thought about the game in that way? Where they're trying to progress to the next level in a kind of a meaningful, purposeful way. So their mindset there. After the phone call, we progress, if it goes well, to like tryouts where they actually play the team. And so there I'm looking for their ability to work with people, as a part of a team. Can they communicate? Are they toxic? That's probably one of the biggest things that we're not looking for. Right. Obviously in a tryout, it's going to be, everyone's going to be a little nervous, a little shy, but I'm looking to see, are they able to take feedback, take criticism, give constructive criticism to the extent that you can in a tryout. Just trying to see, are they a well-rounded person? As much as I want, I don't say I want, but as much as, every student wants to be the best, right? And the most skilled. And as a coach, sure, if you have the skill and mechanical skill, that's great. I'd much rather have a student that's well-rounded, and has the potential to improve, right? In 2-3 years, they don't have to be the best year one. We see that a lot in traditional sports, right? You join the basketball team, freshman, you're riding the bench, but you're putting in the work on the back, and you're still going to the practices, you're still playing with the team, you're learning what's going on, so that year 2, year 3, you can get in that play time. So in that regard, similar to traditional athletics, but really just looking for good people, right? And again, as I touched on earlier, especially for me, year 1, year 2 of a new program, you really want to make sure you have good, genuine people, and that's what's going to end up attracting your recruits later down the road.
Yeah, that team culture for us is very, very, very important, because our tryout process is essentially, we try to mimic what a practice schedule would look like in a week. So it's about 3 days for any given game. It's going to be the same match times, the same practice times. And I mean, we're testing your ability to show up on time. We're testing your ability to come ready. And that doesn't just mean like, oh, you're a mechanical god at League of Legends. No, we're seeing if you're, well rested, if you, already ate dinner, if you're already, already looked up your opponents, like, are you ready for this match, or are you just going in blind? Some of the things that Travis mentioned are true for us. We look at the attitude, not just the attitude coming into the game, but does your attitude change when you win, when you lose, when you're playing from behind, when you're playing with potential teammates who are a higher rank than you or higher skill than you, and vice versa. We're looking for the way you communicate. Are you, silent most of the time, but what you say is very meaningful, very impactful? Or do you fill the comms with a lot of random stuff? I'm sure some of us are guilty of doing that with our friends, but in a competitive setting, is that something that will take away from some really important knowledge, like, oh, so and so just used their ultimate. We've got 30 seconds to do X, Y, and Z. Another big thing is the feedback. Are you willing to give feedback? Are you willing to admit that maybe you made some mistakes in tryouts? I think will always be surprised when I come across students that think they played 100% perfectly, and unless they're ranked #1 in the world, I tend to not believe that. So just the ability to say, okay, you know what, maybe I didn't do X, Y, and Z right, but here's what I did right, and here's what my teammate did right, and that goes a long way. Small things like, is your account in good standing? Can't try it out if you have a banned account. Sorry, I can't. That's a liability. Can't put you on the team. And maybe that's silly, but it's come up before, and we have to address it. That yeah, if you have a banned account, you can't participate. And then going back to what Travis said, it's the growth potential. Maybe you're an average player. It's your second year playing League of Legends, and you're really good at taking feedback. You're really good at giving feedback. You're really good at listening to your teammates. That's a growth potential right there. And maybe that, middle of the pack player now becomes an above average player year 2 and better year 3. And now, they're the shining star their senior year. It's that growth potential. And before we can even get to all of those things, year 1, year 2, these very, very fundamental years are going to be about establishing a program that is a healthy competitive environment that allows for these things to shine. And I don't want to say doesn't smile kindly on toxicity, but at the same time doesn't smile kindly on toxicity. So the kind of students that we look for, or that I look for, are going to be some mixture of these things. And really, it's that growth potential. What are you willing to put in the work for? Because if you're willing to invest in yourself, then that means that we can feel better about investing in you.
Gotcha. That's great to hear. We're almost at the end of the 45-minute mark. Are there anything you'd like to discuss before we head out? Sam, you have any upcoming events, anything going on at the LFG?
Nothing for LFG planned. I was not in the wherewithal ability to plan anything before I got through yesterday's event. So we're going to get back to that. I can say that, watching our social media platforms and things like that, or the collegiate social media platforms as well, there are some initiatives in place from other organizations, not my own, that I'll be supporting to host some esports events. So I don't personally have anything rolling out from LFG, but there will be some cool stuff, hopefully in the next couple of months, for people to participate in, both online and potentially in person as well. But yeah, that's I can't. I'm tired. I was up till 2 a.m. up with my boys this morning at 7. And here I am hanging out with Edward Mayberry and the San Antonio Public Library. I'm a
true
boy.
Trooper. Trooper.
Yeah.
Caitlin, Travis, any competitions coming up? Any recruitment activities coming up anytime soon?
I'll go first on this one. So in the summer, we're going to have open tryouts, open to all current St. Mary's students, high school students, and current community college students. And we're going to be hosting several camps throughout the summer for high school aged students, so about 13 through 18, for Fortnite, Rocket League, League of Legends. There's another one in there. I'll have to find the pamphlet. And in this upcoming fall semester, to complement our recruitment efforts for player, we're also going to be recruiting staff members. So like I said before, you don't have to be a player to be a part of esports. There are so many supporting roles that we're going to be looking to fill this next year, and that could be anything from our broadcast team, team management, community management, just a lot of building new opportunities for students at St. Mary's that support the esports program, not just being a player. Because the player spots, I think, 2 years, 3 years down the line, there's going to be more supporting staff roles than there will be players, because we have broadcast, social, community, and everything in between.
Yeah, I don't want to copy Caitlin's answer, but similar vein, right? Recruitment, obviously we're always recruiting, taking applications between now and the fall. I know our university is working right now on possibly doing an esports camp, depending on what situation looks like. So we might make announcements about that in the next few weeks. But really right now, I'm still just focused on competition, and we've got our recruits that we're talking to. Those that follow us on social media will know, we try to post about kind of our phases for tryouts and stuff like that. So yeah, that's what we got.
Okay, sounds good. I want to thank all of you for your time today, and it's been a great partnership with y'all in the City of San Antonio Public Library. We've talked many times before, and you always give us good things. We're trying to help build our community, get gaming and esports out there so more people are interested, especially in this virtual environment. So we really do appreciate your time and your information when helping us get this out there. And as usual, we will all have your information in the comment section of the YouTube channel. So thank you all again, and have a wonderful day.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you all so much.